The morning light filtered through the blinds of my New York apartment as I adjusted my blazer one last time in the mirror. 6 months at Horizon Tech, and today was the quarterly review with Daniel Pierce, my department head. A knot formed in my stomach as I grabbed my laptop bag and headed out. "Morning, Eliza," said Marcus, our security guard, as I pushed through the revolving doors of the Horizon Tech building. "Ready for the big review?" "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, forcing a smile. The truth was, I wasn't just nervous about a standard performance review. I'd been brought onto the sustainability innovation team with high expectations, and while I knew my work was solid, something about Daniel's demeanor in our last few interactions left me uneasy. The elevator climbed to the 32nd floor, and I took a deep breath before stepping out into the open-concept office space. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of Manhattan, but I barely noticed it anymore. My mind was focused on the stack of reports I'd prepared, documenting the progress on our water conservation project. "Eliza, he's ready for you," called Jen, Daniel's assistant, gesturing toward his glass-walled office. I nodded, squared my shoulders, and walked in. Daniel Pierce sat behind his massive desk, his salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, blue eyes fixed on his computer screen. He didn't look up when I entered. "Take a seat," he said, his voice cool and detached. I sat down across from him, placing my folder of reports on the desk. "I've compiled everything on the water purification system. The prototype is—" "Let's put that aside for a moment," he interrupted, finally looking up. His expression was unreadable. "I've been reviewing your file, Eliza. Your resume, specifically." The knot in my stomach tightened. "Is there a problem?" "You could say that." He turned his monitor toward me. On the screen was my resume, with several sections highlighted in angry red. UN Innovation Award recipient for Sustainable Water Systems in Developing Regions. Leading a team that implemented water conservation technology in 3 countries across Southeast Asia. His voice dripped with skepticism. Quite impressive credentials. "Thank you," I said, though I could tell from his tone that he wasn't offering a compliment. "The thing is, Eliza, I've been in this industry for 20 years. I know everyone worth knowing in sustainable tech, and I've never heard of you winning any UN award." My cheeks burned. "I don't understand. My credentials are all legitimate." "Are they?" He leaned back in his chair. "Because I made some calls. No one seems to remember you at these high-profile projects you claim to have led." My hands began to shake slightly, but I clasped them tightly in my lap. This had to be a misunderstanding. There must be some confusion. "I can provide documentation. I've given you 6 months to prove yourself," he continued as if I hadn't spoken. "And while your work hasn't been terrible, it certainly doesn't match the exceptional background you claim to have. Horizon Tech prides itself on integrity, Eliza. We can't have employees who misrepresent themselves." The implication hit me like a physical blow. "You think I lied on my resume? Did you?" His gaze was piercing. "Absolutely not." My voice came out stronger than I expected. "Every word on that resume is true." Daniel sighed, closing the file on his computer. "I'm giving you until the end of the week to come clean, or to provide irrefutable proof of these accomplishments. Otherwise, I'll have to terminate your employment." The room seemed to spin around me. I'd moved to New York for this job, left behind everything familiar. And now, based on some misguided suspicion, I was about to lose it all. "That won't be necessary," I managed to say, standing up. "I'll have the proof for you tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" He raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting such a quick response. "Tomorrow," I confirmed, gathering my unused reports. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. "And Daniel, you might want to check your sources. They've given you incorrect information." I walked out of his office with my head held high, but as soon as I reached the elevator, the facade crumbled. I punched the button for the lobby and leaned against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. How had this happened? The UN Innovation Award had been the proudest moment of my career. The culmination of 3 years of work in villages across Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia, developing low-cost water filtration systems that could be built and maintained with locally available materials. I still remembered the ceremony in Geneva, the weight of the award in my hands, the faces of my team members beaming with pride. By the time I reached my apartment, anger had replaced shock. I threw my bag onto the couch and paced the small living room. This wasn't just about my job anymore. It was about my integrity, my life's work. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in nearly a year. Min? It's Eliza. I need your help. Min Nguyen had been my right-hand person during the Southeast Asia project. Brilliant, meticulous, and with connections throughout the UN and NGO world. Eliza, it's been too long, her familiar voice answered. What's going on? I explained the situation, my words tumbling out in a rush of frustration. That's ridiculous, Min said when I finished. How could they not verify the award? It's public record. Apparently Daniel's sources say otherwise. I need documentation, Min. Everything we have. Photos, the official award letter, project reports, anything that proves I'm not making this up. Consider it done. I'll scan everything I have and email it to you tonight. And I'll contact Dr. Reyes from the UN committee. He can send an official verification letter. Relief washed over me. Thank you, Min. I don't know what I'd do without you. That's what friends are for, she replied warmly. And Eliza, don't let this shake you. We know what we accomplished. No one can take that away. After hanging up, I sat down at my laptop and began my own search. I pulled up articles about the award ceremony, found the official UN press release, and downloaded every photo I could find. I also emailed other team members, asking for their statements about my role in the project. As evidence accumulated in my inbox, determination replaced fear. Tomorrow, Daniel Pierce would learn exactly who he was dealing with. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, replaying the confrontation with Daniel over and over in my mind. By 5 a.m., I gave up on rest and got out of bed, heading straight for my laptop. Overnight, my inbox had filled with responses. Min had come through with a comprehensive file of documents. Dr. Reyes had sent a formal letter confirming my award. Former team members had written glowing testimonials about my leadership. I printed everything, organizing it meticulously in a binder. Then I added something special, a small flash drive containing video footage from the villages where we'd implemented our water systems. The faces of children drinking clean water for the first time. Women who no longer had to walk miles each day to fetch water. Local engineers proudly maintaining the systems we'd built together. The sun was rising over the city as I showered and dressed with particular care. A structured navy suit that projected confidence, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Today wasn't about looking approachable. It was about commanding respect. New York was already buzzing with activity as I walked the 12 blocks to the office, the weight of the binder in my bag feeling like armor. When I arrived, Daniel wasn't in yet. Good. I needed time to prepare. Rough meeting yesterday? Alicia from the marketing team asked as she stopped by my desk with coffee. News traveled fast in this office. Just a misunderstanding, I replied, not wanting to elaborate. It'll be cleared up today. Hope so. The rumor mill is saying Pierce is on some kind of warpath. Great. Just what I needed. I spent the next hour finalizing my presentation. When my phone buzzed with a message from Jen saying Daniel wanted to see me at 10, I was ready. I arrived at his office exactly on time, binder in hand. Today, I didn't wait to be invited to sit. I believe you asked for proof, I said, placing the binder on his desk. Everything is here. Official documentation of the UN Innovation Award, letters from the selection committee, project reports from our work in Southeast Asia, and testimonials from every key member of my team. Daniel looked surprised at my directness but opened the binder. I watched as he flipped through the pages, his expression shifting from skepticism to confusion. There's also this, I said, placing the flash drive on his desk. Video documentation of our projects, the real impact of our work. He plugged the drive into his computer, and I watched his face as the footage began to play. The pride of the local engineers explaining how the system worked. The gratitude of villagers who now had clean water in their homes. I led that team for 3 years, I said quietly as the video played. We developed water filtration systems using materials that could be sourced locally, making them both affordable and sustainable. Systems that could be maintained without ongoing foreign assistance. The UN recognized our work because it wasn't just a temporary solution. It created permanent change. Daniel muted the video and looked at me. His earlier hostility had faded, replaced by something that looked almost like embarrassment. "I don't understand," he said. "I specifically contacted the UN's Environmental Division. They had no record of your award." "Because the award wasn't from the Environmental Division," I explained. "It was from the UN Development Programme's Innovation for Sustainable Development branch. A simple miscommunication, but one that nearly cost me my job and reputation." He leaned back in his chair, processing this information. "I should have verified more thoroughly before making accusations." "Yes, you should have," I agreed, not bothering to soften the blow. "The question is, what happens now?" Daniel cleared his throat. "Obviously, your position here is secure. I owe you an apology, Eliza. I was wrong." I nodded, accepting the apology without comment. "But I'm curious," he continued. "With credentials like these, you could have worked anywhere. Why Horizon Tech? We're not exactly UN-level prestige." It was a fair question, and one I'd asked myself many times over the past 6 months. After years in the field, I wanted to see how the private sector approaches sustainability, I explained. NGOs and international organizations do vital work, but corporations have resources and reach that can create impact at a different scale. Horizon's commitment to developing sustainable technologies that can be implemented worldwide aligned with my own goals. I paused, then decided to be completely honest. And frankly, I was tired of the bureaucracy. Good ideas get buried under red tape. I thought things might move faster here. A hint of a smile appeared on Daniel's face. "And have they?" "Not as fast as I'd hoped," I admitted. "But that's why I'm here, to help speed things up." He nodded thoughtfully, then closed the binder and handed it back to me. "Keep this. You've made your point." He gestured to the water purification reports I'd brought yesterday. "Now, tell me about the prototype." For the next hour, we discussed the project I'd been working on, a modified version of the filtration system I'd developed overseas, adapted for urban applications in water-stressed U.S. cities. For the first time since I'd joined Horizon, Daniel actually listened to my ideas. "This could be groundbreaking," he said when I finished. "But it needs resources, a larger team." "I've been saying that for months," I pointed out. "And now you'll have it," he replied. "I'm putting you in charge of the expanded Water Conservation Division. Full budget authority, staff requisitions, whatever you need." I tried not to show my shock. This was more than I'd hoped for. "Thank you. I won't disappoint you." "I know you won't." He stood up, indicating our meeting was over. "The board meets next month. I want you to present this project personally." As I gathered my things to leave, he added, "One more thing, Eliza. That video footage, the impact of your work. It's powerful. We should incorporate something similar into our corporate materials. Shows the human side of what we're trying to accomplish." I nodded, surprised by the suggestion. "I'll work with marketing on it." Walking back to my desk, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Vindication, certainly, but also a lingering sense of disappointment. It shouldn't have taken all this to be taken seriously. My work should have spoken for itself. My phone buzzed with a text from Min. "How did it go?" I typed back, "Better than expected. Got promoted." Her reply came instantly. "Of course you did. You're Eliza Martin, UN Innovation Award winner. Never forget it." I smiled at the message. No, I wouldn't forget. And after today, neither would Daniel Pierce. The weeks following my confrontation with Daniel transformed my experience at Horizon Tech. With my new position came a corner office, a team of 8 talented engineers and environmental scientists, and the budget I'd been requesting for months. Most importantly, I had autonomy. The Water Conservation Project was now officially named the Martin Initiative, and for the first time since joining the company, I felt the same sense of purpose that had driven my work overseas. "Team meeting in 5 minutes," announced Raj, my newly appointed project coordinator, poking his head into my office. I nodded, gathering my notes. We were 6 weeks into development of an advanced version of my filtration system, designed specifically for urban infrastructure. The prototype was promising, but we'd hit some technical roadblocks. The conference room was already filled when I arrived. Familiar faces from my original team mixed with new hires, all engaged in animated discussion about our latest test results. "All right, everyone," I said, taking my place at the head of the table. "Let's get started." For the next hour, we dissected the problems with the current design: flow rate issues, filter lifespan limitations, and installation challenges for older city water systems. The team dynamics had shifted from the cautious, hierarchical approach that dominated under Daniel's direct oversight to something more collaborative and innovative. "What if we completely rethink the membrane structure?" suggested Maya, one of our new environmental engineers. "The ceramic filters we used in Southeast Asia worked because they could be produced locally, but here we have access to advanced materials. Graphene oxide could be the answer," added Wei, our materials specialist. "Its filtration properties are exceptional, and recent manufacturing breakthroughs have made it more cost-effective." I listened as ideas bounced around the table, occasionally steering the conversation, but mostly letting the team's collective expertise drive the discussion. This was what I'd missed: the energy of creative minds working together toward a shared goal. As the meeting concluded, I felt a familiar buzz of excitement. "Maya, Wei, develop that graphene oxide concept. I want a proposal by Friday. Raj, coordinate with the municipal relations team. We need to identify 3 potential pilot cities. Everyone else, keep troubleshooting the current prototype. We present to the board in 2 weeks." The team dispersed, energized by clear direction and challenging goals. As I gathered my notes, I noticed Daniel standing in the doorway. "Got a minute?" he asked. I followed him to his office, curious about this unexpected summons. "The board presentation has been moved up," he said without preamble once we were seated. "Next Wednesday instead of Friday." "That's not ideal," I replied, mentally reorganizing our timeline. "But we'll make it work." "There's more," he leaned forward. "The mayor of Phoenix will be there. They're interested in being our first implementation site." My pulse quickened. Phoenix, a city facing severe water challenges due to ongoing drought and population growth. The perfect testing ground for our technology. "That's incredible," I said. "How did this happen?" "Your reputation, actually." Daniel looked slightly uncomfortable admitting this. "When I mentioned the Martin Initiative to one of the board members, she recognized your name from the UN award. She has connections in Phoenix and made the introduction." The irony wasn't lost on me. The very credentials Daniel had questioned were now opening doors for the company. "I'll make sure we're ready," I assured him. "I know you will." He hesitated, then added, "I underestimated you, Eliza. I'm not too proud to admit that." Coming from Daniel, this was as close to friendship as we'd ever get. I nodded, accepting the olive branch for what it was. As I turned to leave, he said, "One more thing. The mayor is bringing her chief sustainability officer, Dr. Gabriela Reyes." I froze. "Dr. Reyes from the UN committee?" "The same. Apparently, she's been working for Phoenix for the past year." Small world. I walked back to my office in a daze. Gabriela Reyes had been the chair of the committee that awarded my team the UN Innovation Award. Her endorsement had catapulted our project into the international spotlight. And now, by some twist of fate, she would be evaluating my work again. That evening, I stayed late, reviewing every aspect of our proposal. The office gradually emptied until I was alone, the Manhattan skyline twinkling beyond my window. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister in Chicago. "You're working too late again, aren't you?" I smiled, typing back, "Important presentation next week. Could change everything." Her response came quickly. "Just remember to breathe. You've got this." She was right, of course. I'd faced bigger challenges than this. Villages without electricity or running water, government officials resistant to new ideas, resources stretched beyond breaking point. By comparison, a corporate presentation should be straightforward. Yet the stakes felt just as high. This wasn't just about professional validation anymore. It was about bringing my experience from the developing world back home, scaling solutions that worked, making a difference on a larger stage. I closed my laptop and stood up, stretching tired muscles. As I gathered my things to leave, I caught sight of a small framed photo on my desk, my team in Cambodia, standing proudly beside our first successfully implemented water system. The local engineers, Min, myself, all beaming with accomplishment. That photo had been my talisman during the difficult early months at Horizon, a reminder of what I was capable of, what I had already achieved. Now it served a different purpose, a bridge between my past work and future ambitions. The Martin Initiative wasn't just a corporate project. It was the evolution of a mission I'd begun years ago. As I left the building, nodding goodnight to the night security guard, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Next Wednesday wouldn't just be a presentation to the board and the Phoenix delegation. It would be the next chapter in a story that had begun in the villages of Southeast Asia, a story about bringing clean water to those who needed it most. And this time, no one would question whether I belonged at the center of that story. The morning of the board presentation arrived with unseasonable rain lashing against the windows of my apartment. I dressed carefully in a charcoal gray suit, professional but not flashy. Today wasn't about me. It was about the technology, the potential impact. When I arrived at the office, the team was already assembled in our designated preparation room, making final adjustments to the presentation and prototype demonstration. "We've recalibrated the flow meters," Raj informed me, his usually calm demeanor tinged with nervous energy. "The graphene oxide filter is performing beyond expectations. The economic projection models are updated too," added Layla, our financial analyst. 20-year cost-benefit analysis shows savings of approximately $300 million for a city the size of Phoenix. I reviewed everything one last time, then gathered the team for a final pep talk. "Remember, we're not just selling a product today. We're offering a solution to a critical problem. These people know the challenges. What they need is hope that those challenges can be overcome. That's what we're giving them." At precisely 10 a.m., we made our way to the executive boardroom on the top floor. I'd never been in this space before, a massive room dominated by a gleaming table, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of rain-drenched Manhattan. The Horizon Tech board members were already seated, along with Daniel and other executives. At the far end sat 3 unfamiliar faces, the Phoenix delegation. My heart skipped when I recognized Gabriela Reyes, her hair shorter than I remembered, but her penetrating gaze unchanged. "Ms. Martin," the board chairwoman said, rising to greet me, "we're eager to hear about your initiative." I introduced my team, then launched into the presentation we'd rehearsed dozens of times. The global water crisis, the limitations of current filtration technologies. Our innovative approach, building on proven success in developing regions but enhanced for urban infrastructure. As I spoke, I watched the faces around the table. The board members were attentive, but reserved. They'd heard ambitious proposals before. The mayor of Phoenix leaned forward, clearly engaged. And Dr. Reyes, she watched with an inscrutable expression, occasionally making notes. When I reached the technical specifications, I handed over to Maya and Wei, who explained the graphene oxide filtration system with confidence and clarity. Raj followed with implementation logistics and timeline projections. "And now," I said, taking back control of the presentation, "I'd like to demonstrate the actual filtration capabilities." At my signal, Raj brought forward 3 large beakers of water, one filled with visibly contaminated water from the East River, one with typical municipal tap water, and one empty. He set up our prototype, a surprisingly compact device that represented months of refinement from our original designs. "This system doesn't just filter obvious contaminants," I explained, pouring the East River water through. "It also removes pharmaceutical residues, microplastics, and other emerging pollutants that conventional treatment plants miss." The murky water emerged crystal clear in the empty beaker. Impressive, but expected. The real test came next. What you can't see, I continued, running the tap water through a second filter, are the contaminants in water that already meets current EPA standards. I held up both beakers of filtered water, identical in purity, regardless of the source, and achieved with 70% less energy consumption than conventional methods, using materials that last 3 times longer than current filters. The room was silent for a moment, then erupted in questions: technical specifications, production costs, implementation challenges. My team fielded each query with confidence, our months of preparation paying off. Finally, Dr. Reyes spoke for the first time. Ms. Martin, this technology bears certain similarities to the system you developed in Southeast Asia. I met her gaze directly. The fundamental principles are the same, Dr. Reyes. Clean water shouldn't be a luxury, whether in rural Cambodia or urban Arizona. But this system has been completely redesigned for municipal scale and incorporates advanced materials that weren't feasible in developing regions. She nodded, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. Innovation that adapts to context. Exactly what impressed the UN committee. The mayor of Phoenix leaned forward. Bottom line, Ms. Martin, can this system help my city prepare for a future with increasingly scarce water resources? Without a doubt, I replied. Phoenix faces unique challenges: extreme heat, growing population, limited water sources. Our system won't create new water, but it will ensure you make the absolute most of what you have. Every drop purified, recycled, and reused with maximum efficiency. The board chairwoman glanced at her colleagues, then at the Phoenix delegation. I believe we've heard enough to make a decision. Ms. Martin, would you and your team give us the room? We gathered our materials and stepped outside. In the hallway, my team huddled together, a mix of tension and excitement on their faces. That went well, right? Maya whispered. Dr. Reyes recognized you, Wei added. That has to be good. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The adrenaline that had carried me through the presentation was fading, leaving a hollow nervousness in its place. 20 minutes later, Daniel emerged from the boardroom. His expression gave nothing away. They're ready for you, he said simply. Just you, Eliza. I smoothed my jacket, took a deep breath, and walked back into the room. The atmosphere had changed, the formal tension replaced by something lighter. Ms. Martin, the chairwoman began, the board has unanimously approved the Martin Initiative for full funding and development. Furthermore, the city of Phoenix has agreed to serve as our first implementation partner. Relief and elation washed over me. Thank you. My team will be thrilled. There's more, she continued. In light of this project's potential, we're establishing a new division, Horizon Sustainable Solutions. The board would like you to lead it as vice president. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. Vice president? The chairwoman nodded. Your experience in both international development and corporate innovation gives you a unique perspective that Horizon needs. Daniel spoke quite persuasively on your behalf. I glanced at Daniel, who gave me a small nod of acknowledgement. I'm honored, I said, my mind racing with possibilities. And I accept. After finalizing details and shaking hands all around, I found myself alone with Dr. Reyes as the meeting broke up. It seems congratulations are in order, she said. Twice now I've had the pleasure of recognizing your work. It means a great deal coming from you, I replied. Your endorsement of our UN project changed my career. She smiled. The UN award recognized past achievement, Eliza. She gestured around us. This is about future potential. You've found a way to bring solutions from the developing world back to America. That's rare and valuable. It's what I always hoped to do, I admitted. Sometimes the best innovations come from places with the fewest resources. Phoenix will be just the beginning, she said. Cities across the Southwest are watching. Succeed there, and you'll have more opportunities than you can imagine. As she left to join the mayor, I stood alone for a moment, taking in the view of the city through the rain-streaked windows. Somewhere out there were the offices where, 6 months ago, Daniel Pierce had accused me of falsifying my resume. The memory seemed almost comical now. I found my team waiting anxiously in our preparation room. Well? Raj demanded as soon as I walked in. Phoenix is on board, I announced. Full funding approved. They erupted in cheers and congratulations. And, I continued when the noise died down, Horizon is creating a new division for sustainable solutions. We'll be expanding beyond water conservation into other environmental technologies. That's amazing, Maya said. Who's going to lead it? I allowed myself a small smile. You're looking at the new vice president. More cheers, handshakes, hugs, a celebration 6 months in the making. Later that evening, after the team had gone to continue the celebration at a nearby bar, I sat alone in my new corner office. The rain had stopped, and the setting sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden glow over the city. I took out my phone and dialed Min's number. Eliza, how did the big presentation go? Better than I could have imagined, I replied, still processing everything that had happened. Phoenix is on board as our first implementation site, and I've been promoted to vice president. I knew it, Min exclaimed. From the villages of Cambodia to the executive suite, always moving forward. I couldn't have done it without you, I said sincerely. Your help with the documentation, contacting Dr. Reyes, it made all the difference. That's what I keep telling you, Eliza. You never have to do it alone. Your strength has always been bringing people together around a common purpose. As we talked, I gazed out at the city below. Millions of people, all depending on systems and infrastructure they rarely thought about. Clean water, flowing at the turn of a tap, taken for granted until it's gone. We're making a difference, Min, I said quietly. Different context, same mission. That's all that matters in the end, she replied. Now go celebrate. You've earned it. After hanging up, I gathered my things to join my team at the bar. On my desk sat the binder, the proof of my achievements that had turned the tide with Daniel. I wouldn't need it anymore, but I tucked it into my bag anyway. Some battles leave marks that change us forever. This one had reminded me of something essential. My worth wasn't defined by Daniel's recognition or even by Horizon's validation. It was written in the clean water flowing in villages across Southeast Asia, in the faces of children who would grow up healthier because of our work, and now in the future of cities facing water scarcity. That was my resume. Not a document, but a legacy of impact. And no one could ever call that fake.